Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Palantir. It is time for another update. Also, an update was requested by one of the followers and I wanted to let you know that anyone can make these requests and I'll most likely cover them, especially if there is an actionable trade setup to follow. And in the case of this chart, we are of course dealing with a quite bullish structure overall, where we start with a double 1-2-1-2 setup, and within this larger wave 3 to the upside we are tracking an internal impulse within which we have a wave 1, 2 and possibly 3 complete. Now, if this wave 3 actually formed a top within this area, I would expect a correction into the larger area of support for the wave 4, before expecting further continuation higher. And this area sits here at the levels between the $120 all the way down to the $65 level at the 50% retracement. Although there is no guarantee at the moment that this wave 3 has actually topped and further extensions are still possible within it. And in such a case, we can actually see wild extensions even, but at the moment we are tracking a more conservative interpretation for this idea of an extension, where we would like to see only a fifth wave within a larger ending diagonal within this area. And to be honest, we could still see extensions further even after that, before considering a top within this wave 3. But at this point, this is what I'm looking for. I would need to see evidence that we should expect even further extensions. I would need to see the actual pattern unfold, and sure, if it plays out within this exact structure, I may actually even prefer continuation higher. But at the moment, this is what we are tracking, this is what we are focusing on, and within this interpretation we have had our correction in the wave 4 quite deep into the area of support. In fact, we even had a week below the last level of support, pretty much perfectly into the wave 1 territory, which can be considered even a requirement for a larger or for a diagonal pattern in general. And nothing is out of lines here. Sure, we did break it briefly. We broke the 61.8% retracement, but nothing sustained, and we already had quite a nice reaction to the upside within this area. And in the previous video we were actually looking for continuation higher in this structure, within which we had also a resistance area in white that could have tracked a wave B top, and it is still technically possible. We did have a somewhat sustained break above those levels, so it is a good sign that we should expect continuation higher. But the focus in the previous video was actually continuation within this internal movement to the upside. We had this wave 3 top. This wave 3 top, we were looking for a correction into the area of support in yellow and continuation higher. And sure, we did get a reset of this wave 4, but we did extend in a fifth wave within this area. Now, keep in mind, we are tracking overall a larger ABC movement within this structure to the upside, and while it isn't necessary to be tracking this structure to the upside as a 5-wave move, it is possible for me. This exact pattern that I laid out here was something that I was considering that could have allowed even further continuation after this top was in place for even another 4th and a 5th within this area, to complete the larger structure here, but it was not absolutely necessary. And for example, I could consider the wave A to have topped here, the wave B to have bottomed here, to have this wave C as a top, wave 3 complete here, 4th wave already in place here, and then a 5th wave. I can very easily actually track this within a larger wave A to the upside as a leading diagonal within the larger move to the upside within an ABC movement within the larger 5th wave, and this is exactly what I will be considering for now to continue within this structure higher. And for this, we can track an internal area of support at the levels between the 38.2% retracement. Here we have the $177.6 all the way down to the 78.6% retracement at the $157.4 level. And as long as we hold these levels, there is no reason to look for a failure, to look for continuation in the larger wave 4 correction in white, because right now we even have this potential 5-wave move to the upside that can be tracked. We are looking for a 3-wave correction which is already in place, and for a follow-up in another 5-wave move to the upside within a wave C. Now, as I was saying, within this correction in the wave B, we already have 3 waves down, which means we don't need any additional structure to consider this pattern complete. And although we do have the possibility to have a bottom in place, unfortunately the structure that has formed since to the upside doesn't necessarily seem too suggestive of continuation higher, because even here we have only a 3-wave move to the upside, and I can track it even in a couple of ways, but it doesn't matter exactly because it is quite apparent that this cannot be reliably tracked as a 5-wave move to the upside. Sure, it might work out something like a 1-2 3, 4th, and the 5th, but it's not going to be a reliable structure. We are still going to need to allow a pattern to develop within a larger time frame before we have more confidence. But of course, we can track an internal area of support even then, and for this I would be looking at the levels between the $179 all the way down to the $170.7 level. Within this correction, we can see quite a sharp decline, which isn't uncommon, especially if we actually consider this to be a 5-way move to the upside within a leading diagonal, a wave 1 to the upside. It isn't uncommon after diagonal structures in general to actually see a sharp decline, a sharp correction, although again, even here we may see extensions further down. Now, before we get into that, I would actually like to point out, even though this is a 3-wave move to the downside, it doesn't need to be complete. This wave B could very easily extend, and that would be no problem at all, especially as long as we are holding the larger area of support. And for that, we don't have anything too specific that we should expect in terms of resistance, because for this structure to actually extend within a 5th wave, I would have liked to actually hold here the last level of resistance for such a correction in a wave 4, even within a diagonal structure, which would have been the, let's say here in white, the 61.8% retracement. We did get quite a nice break above it actually, and I wouldn't consider this as a high probability to work out within a 1, 2, 3, 4th, and the 5th. I would prefer this, even if it extends lower, to be something like an A, B, C movement, something like that could work out. And again, that would be perfectly fine, especially because we could very, very easily be tracking this as a larger 3-wave move to the downside within the wave B, in which case the correction could be complete. Now, in terms of resistance, overall, internally within this area, I won't be tracking here the larger area of resistance in white. I will actually hide that now. But within this area, internally, I would be looking at the resistance, or for resistance, at the levels between the $178 all the way up to the $191.5. If we manage to break above the 78.6% retracement, it would be a decent signal that this structure may be prepared to complete the wave C to the upside. But until then, there is still some pressure to push lower, although nothing too significant. Nothing that tells us there is a high probability for continuation lower. Now remember, if we zoom out, we have a somewhat interesting area of support here in the larger time frame in the yellow wave B correction. We are still very much within the area of support at the moment. We did get back into it, although we broke above it, and we may even track internally a potential 1-2 setup in this area, although this isn't necessarily the most clear structure, the most clear 5-way move to the upside, but that would be more for the probabilities to track continuation higher and the pattern within which we can track it. But even if it is just something like an ABC movement, I could very easily still allow such a pattern to work out within a wave C, because a wave C could also work into an ending diagonal. In such a case, yes, we are prepared to continue higher, but there is no clear signal. Now, in terms of the internal structure within this area, it is a bit strong to the downside. We may be able to track it as a 5-wave move, but again, nothing too specific, unfortunately, especially within these smaller time frames. With such choppy structures, it is difficult to determine exact counts. Many scenarios could fit. Within all of them, I could track this as an A, B, C movement to the downside. That could be a complete correction, but again, even then to the upside, I may be tracking this as a 1-2, 1-2. That could work out, but nothing too reliable. This could still even extend into a 1-2, 3, 4th, and the 5th to the downside. In the end, I wouldn't be focusing too much into this area for resistance or for support internally here. I would instead use the larger area and generally just zoom out. For now, we can actually notice that if we want to track an internal area of resistance for a correction in the wave 4, we got perfectly to the 38.2% retracement, which is the ideal target for a wave 4 correction. A 5th wave may very well still follow, and if we build such a wave to the downside, I may be able to track a 1, 2, 3, 4th, and the 5th for a follow-up correction in a 3-wave move to the upside and then another 5-wave move to the downside. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend focusing on these areas. I would generally recommend to consider an accumulation area from a larger time frame perspective if you really are interested. But the larger trend allows continuation higher. it allows, even with decent probabilities, for a trade setup within this area of support. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.